The Nittany Lions defense takes the fight out of Illinois as they pass their first Big Ten road test.
I want our players and our fans to take 30 seconds, in the beginning and take it all in, but then after that, it's about execution.
Next up, 24th ranked Iowa in Beaver Stadium for an annual whiteout that is one of the great scenes in college football.
Ended up calling scrap and joked a little bit that I was going to go somewhere else, and then I was like, all right, I'm coming to Penn State.
Justin King made Scrap sweat it out a little bit before committing to Penn State, how he met fellow top recruit Derek Williams, and what made him decide to play in Happy Valley. It's time for Nittany Game Week. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nittany Game Week. I'm Todd Sadowski alongside our coaches Jay Paterno and Tom Bradley. Forecast is for a whiteout in Happy Valley this week. First thing we do on a game week, though, is review the previous opponent. Not a thing of beauty in Champaign, but Penn State passes their first road test and opens up Big Ten play, I'd say rather stress-free. How do you guys explain it?
Well, this may be a year where turnovers, special teams, defense, and then offense gets it done, because that's the kind of year it may very well be, and that's how they got it done in Illinois.
But anytime you go on the road and get a win, it's a big win. You got to figure it that way. They got it done. It doesn't matter if it was a thing of beauty. Doesn't on the stat, it just says W. Absolutely.
Add to it that it's the conference and the conference opener. So it's a one-way game of takeaway. The defense, solid from front to back, and the offense makes the adjustment to their opponent stacking the box in our opening drive. All right, so +5 in the turnover differential category. I'd say that's what you're looking for. You can almost throw out every other statistical category. If you are +5 in turnovers, that's almost all you need, and the turnovers come fast and furious against the Illini.
There are years teams aren't +5 for the season, let alone in a game, but those things really helped, and obviously they set up 20 of the 30 points off turnovers, and that's a big deal on the road.
But during the course of the season, some games it's going to be for the defense, some for the offense, sometimes a special team. That's why it's called a team.
Well, look, don't expect this level of turnover success every game, of course. It certainly is the goal for this defense.
Diaz says all the time he wants killers on the defense, and then we try to live up to the standard of him saying that, and everyone just wants to do their job and make big plays, so we're all just going to do our job at the same time so we can feed each other.
DeLuca showing a nose for the football early in the season. He knocks this ball loose with a textbook hit, but remember, he had a pick six the prior week at home against Delaware.
Well, that's what you like to see, but we'll stick with your favorite side of the ball, Tom. That really a solid effort overall, and really got the things done that they needed to get done.
They did what they had to do, but they came up with very opportune times for the big turnovers and plays to help the offense. And so it's just the way it worked out that game. Everybody bails each other out during the course of the season.
And if you look at the field position, the turnovers really tilted the field in Penn State's favor. Their average field position was about 15 to 20 yards further downfield than Illinois' was for the game.
Whether it's tackles, fumbles, pressures, or sacks, there's only one end result that matters.
It's about what do we have to do to win games, and sometimes that's going to equate to gaudy statistics at one position or another. We'll come in another week, and you guys are saying, well, we had 6 sacks, but we didn't have any interceptions. Why not? Again, these things usually are complementary pieces.
And not a ton of sacks from the rush, but we all saw it. QB Luke Altmaier felt the pressure all day long. And on the other side of the ball, the offense continues to search for explosive plays, especially in the running game. Hard to complain about a turnover-free performance, though, especially from a quarterback making his first Big Ten road start. As for the running backs, they made the adjustment to make sure those guys got their touches, Jay.
Well, I think the big thing is the outside. Still got to get some things on the outside with the wideouts to open up the run game. But in lieu of that, some nice screens and some pick plays to the running backs got them in the open field with the ball in their hand. And that's really, at the end of the day, whether you hand it to them or whether you throw it to them, if they're in the open field, that's when they got to make their plays.
And they've been doing a great job protecting the football. They're not giving it back to the other team. And that, when you get on the plus side of the turnovers, usually good things happen.
Tom, that's not just handling the ball. That's the decisions that Sheraller's making before he even lets it go. That's how you handle the football as well. So Singleton was the leading receiver with 3 catches and 49 yards. He says they're not frustrated, just eager to break off a big play.
Me and Cajun, we want the long runs to get in the end zone. That's really what we want to do. But, Coach Sider always preaches no hard runs or, really the good runs, too. Because, we got to keep it pace because, we'll break out one of these times. So.
After his teammates on the field congratulate him, well, there's the first person off the sidelines to meet Nick. It's Katron, running backs 1 and 1A. Well, it's not just the team's first road trip of the season. We all know the Nittany Lions have some of the most passionate fans in the country, ready and willing to travel to support the team. Here's Andrew with more on the off-the-field Penn Staters in Champaign.
Gentlemen, Penn State on the road in all whites. Nothing is better, right? Well, let's just say that a noon kick in Champaign provides plenty of opportunity. For great experiences like this reunion among friends and alumni from California to Florida, college football brings people together.
Chance to get together with all our best friends and so forth and hang out, so we really enjoy getting to see each other again.
Let's go State! For many, the draw to head to Illinois obviously support their Lions. And the history of Memorial Stadium.
I think it's a beautiful historic venue, and it's really cool to be able to see something different, something new.
The word iconic, when you see a statue of Red Grange, Dick Butkus, it really brings back some memories of, the glory days. And again, it's just one of the great, you could say, shrines in college football.
And can we just say how great this is? Look at the line to greet the Nittany Lion. Illinois fans, Penn State fans, it doesn't matter. And everyone having a good time, including this young man who made his first Penn State game.
Penn State.
And we close it with a visit from the Lion for a little Illini fan. Yes, college football is amazing, and guys, I may not have got my picture taken with the Nittany Lion, but I did snap one with Dick Butkus and Red Grange. You just have to. Did I mention? Yes, college football is awesome.
Looking good, Red Grange. Coming up, we discuss the ghosts of 2021 that will try to haunt the Nittany Lions again. Our coaches are scouting the Hawkeyes. One Penn State needs to stay out of 3rd and long against the Iowa defense when Nittany Game Week returns.
Opening Drive is sponsored by your local Ford store. Visit buyfordnow.com today.
Well, I promise we're not trying to be cruel by showing you these plays. It's connection to this week's game. It's not Halloween. Nittany Lions want to exercise those 2021 ghosts. That was a late lead against Michigan. Cade McNamara to tight end Eric All. They're both transferred to Iowa and are starters for the Hawkeyes. And then this grab by Nick Reganey for Iowa in 2021 takes the PSU train off the tracks for a few weeks, and he is still on the team. It's a ranked opponent at home for a whiteout. Iowa's had their issues on offense. They hope McNamara and All solve some of those problems. Let's bring in our coaches. We reviewed last week's win. Now it's time to dissect this week's opponent. Iowa in the top 25, and everyone knows the Hawkeyes can be a thorn in the Lions' paw.
And one of the things that's been the hallmark of Iowa is consistency. The things we're going to talk about tonight are things that you could have talked about 15 years ago, 20 years ago under Kirk Ferentz. Let's talk about how their approach is. They are a defense-first, special teams, and then offense guys. And you look at what they are. They're balanced offense in terms of run and pass. Turnover margin is even. Here are some of the keys I think you and I have talked about that you'll need to see. You got to stop the run with Iowa, as you know. You got to make the quarterback take sacks, make him force passes, which McNamara has shown, and then you've got to get the right matchup on the tight ends. But let's talk about the run game, because with Penn State's defense, they're really good against the run. 2 different types of run schemes you're going to see from them. Some man schemes and some zone schemes. We'll talk about it. This is a man scheme, a power play, Tom. Creates angles, neutralizes the speed of the defense. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, here you go right now off the back. You got 13 personnel sitting in this game. You got 3 tight ends coming at you. They're going to bring the big boys in here to run the ball.
Yeah, when you watch that guard just come over and absolutely dump that defender on his diaper, you better come ready to go when these guys come at you. And you can see it here again, and they get north and south. Now, let's talk about the zone scheme. Zone scheme is their preferred method. They like to literally create lateral displacement. The running back is going to get to an aiming point and then read what's happening and adjust and react, and that makes it tough for those guys on defense.
One of the things they're going to do, they're very good at knocking people off the ball, but they've lived for years on his eyes, the tailback's eyes, making the proper cut when he gets to the place where he believes he can make the move.
And one of the things about these schemes is penetrating defenses, upfield charge defenses like Penn State make these schemes kind of tough. So I think we'll probably see some more of those zones, or some man blocking and some man adjustments on those outside zones. So let's talk about how they keep those plays good. They do it with, they want to throw the ball on first and second down with play action. They'd rather not be in third and long, and they've got to fool these guys, Tom. But what do you got to tell these guys so they don't get fooled? What are your
One of my keys is look at the hats of these linemen. If those hats are low coming off the ball, it's a run. If they're higher, it's a pass.
Yep, and you can see they fooled the safety here from Iowa State. They get tight end Eric All behind them, and big play that opens things up. If Penn State gives up a bunch of these plays, could be a long night for them, but the safeties have got to be locked in. So let's talk about some of the other things you're going to see defensively. 12 points a game they're giving up. They're always good on defense. 286 yards a game. And again, they do a good job against the run. Some of the keys here that we've talked about as you look at the things to keep your eyes on: throwing accuracy, stay out of third and long because that's when they match up. Throw left if you're going to throw outside because the right corner is really good and the two middle linebackers are really good guys. Let's talk about their base defense. 3 linebackers, 4 down guys, and the real good gap integrity, and these guys are really active in run support.
One of the things about this defense, we can talk schematically all we want. They're great fundamentally. They run to the ball, proper pursuit angles. They're good tacklers, and they know this scheme inside and out.
Yep. Now let's talk about what they do in the pass game. They're very basic in coverage, and they're really good at reading patterns and watching quarterback because they know what they do. They study what you do, and you can see it on this one, Tom.
Yeah, you sure can. That's one of the things about them. They know exactly how to play this defense. They've been playing it forever.
Yeah. I mean, look at this play. Just undercuts him. Next thing you know, he's going the other way. Third down now. Why you want to stay on a third down? They bring in another defensive back. They're going to play a lot of man, and then that gives these safeties the chance to play around and fool your quarterback. They're really disciplined. Most people on these picks try and stay with them. Here's a linebacker and a corner communicating on the pick and creating problems.
Yeah, they'll give you some exotic coverages on third down. This is where they get into what they call their cute stuff, some things that they don't usually do a lot of, but when you get them in this situation, they're going to give you a lot of different looks.
So the key is stay out of third and long, stay on schedule, and just like that, we're back over to Todd.
Now, Iowa's going to face a stingy defense and a maniacal fan base for the annual whiteout. It's not just a unique Penn State football experience. It's now a bucket list game for college football fans across the country. We'll keep it a little closer to home and find out how Drew Aller feels about his whiteout start at QB.
There's nothing like the whiteout for sure in all of sports. And obviously it was very memorable to even get in a type of game like that last year. But I mean, really our main goal, I mean, obviously we're all going to take it in as a team, but we're not going to let that distract us from what we're supposed to do. We have to go out on the field and handle the business first.
Yeah, big national stage for Aller and the Nittany Lions. They are not going to have a lot of games against ranked opponents. They need to make this one count. Still to come, our Impact interview. Here's a guy that knows a thing or two about being an impact player on the football field on both sides. Justin King joins us to talk about the current secondary and how lockdown coverage affects the rest of the defense. And don't forget to show us your pride by submitting your Nittany Game Week Pride picks on our website. Could be at the tailgate, rooting on the blue and white from home, kids, pets. We want to see them cheering on the Nittany Lions. Send us your pride picks at NittanyGameWeek.com.
Impact Interview is sponsored by the Pocono Mountains, where small-town charm meets big adventures. Book your trip today by visiting PoconoMountains.com.
Welcome back to Nittany Game Week. It's time for our Impact interview, and this week's guest is another of an outstanding student athlete and a long history of great Nittany Lions players, although this one was quite the two-way player in his day. He entered Penn State in the spring semester of 2005, part of a class that sparked a rebirth of Penn State football. After the 2007 season, Justin King entered the NFL draft, where he was selected by the St. Louis Rams, spent several years in the NFL, and he joins us now. Justin, thanks so much for the time. We really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be on.
All right, so you had a really famous kind of recruiting story, because it wasn't just you, it was you and Derek Williams kind of grouped together, 2 of the top 10 players in the country. And as I mentioned, you guys kind of sparked that rebirth. So talk about the recruiting process for you guys and what motivated you at that point in your life to decide on Penn State?
Well, man, that's a very interesting story. I mean, it was a nice recruiting process. I'll start with just even the first time that me and Derek met each other. We actually met for the first time at a Penn State Nike camp, where back in the day where they did the Nike camps and invitationals, it was actually at Penn State. And Derek stuck out to me just in somebody's competitiveness. So we ended up connecting there. But to fall back to when I first got my offer at Penn State, obviously I was coming up to Penn State pretty often with my dad and going to the games. And so I met Scrap when I was like seventh or eighth grade, and understanding the landscape of Penn State football and what the atmosphere of college football was. So like that was like my intro to what college sports was. So when I first got my offer from Penn State, obviously Scrap did a great job recruiting me. He was consistent the whole way through. But what really motivated me to go to Penn State throughout the whole time was really the consistency, like the respectability that they had throughout the recruiting process and how they recruited from like a place, I don't say a place of power, but like from a place of respect, from respect for themselves. I mean, it was at the time where there was some down years at Penn State. They had some struggles, but just according to how everyone else was recruiting me, like 55 offers across the country, they were consistent in where they stood, regardless of how they moved. So that really was something that stuck out to me. And obviously, Scrap echoed all the consistency throughout the recruiting process. And when it came down to making my decision, I had to ask myself, like, who do I trust and who do I respect? And it was glaringly Penn State at the end of the day. So I ended up calling Scrap and joked a little bit that I was going to go somewhere else. And then I was like, all right, I'm coming to Penn State.
Scrap probably had heart medication going when he said that. So Justin, a lot of people, Travis Hunter at Colorado is getting a lot of attention because he's a two-way player. A lot of people forget you were a two-way player when you came to Penn State. So forget Tom Bradley's here for a minute. You played some wide receiver, you returned kicks, you got reverses, you even lined up at running back when you were on the good side of the ball with us. But so forget Tom's here for a minute and just tell us all how much more fun it was when you came over to the offensive side of the ball and got the ball in your hand than it was playing defense for those stiffs over there.
I will say it was fun. My first snaps at Penn State were actually on the offensive side of the ball, whether it was like in the spring and coming into the first game, getting in against South Florida. But it was very exciting having, playing with Mike Robb, playing with Derek, Jordan, and Dion. We were all roommates. So all of us getting a chance to prepare and get ready to jump on the field. There were some moments when I played defense in practice where it was like, oh, he's the traitor, right? So like when I was on offense, it was like I was one of the guys. So it was extremely exciting. And it was it was one of the, confirmations for myself throughout the recruiting process, because Joe and Scrap were telling me that I had the ability to play both sides of the ball. So for it to happen, and they were giving me plans. We talked previously before we got on camera about Joe's letters not being so short, but they were detailing a plan for me to play both sides and how to do it. And that was one of the major things that separated them from the rest of the schools, where it was like actual details of like, hey, this is the plan that we have for you. This is the value that we can provide for you. And this is the value you can provide for us. So just the honesty throughout the whole recruiting process, and then get there in the spring and start seeing the plan implemented was very satisfying and encouraging to me. So it was always happy to play, on the offensive side of the ball, because that was the one question mark that we see like, hey, will that really happen? So, everything on defense was defense. I knew that was going to come along.
Justin, I think I spent so much time recruiting you, they thought I was on the faculty at Gateway High School. But the one thing is, as you look at some of Penn State's best players in the NFL right now, many of them played high school football in Pennsylvania. As a guy who was a product of Western Pennsylvania high school football, how much did it mean to you to stay in state and play at Penn State?
It was essential. I think you don't really understand it. And even going back to the recruiting process, how everyone operates, the way, coming up in Pittsburgh, it's a blue collar town. And just coming across, like I would say, quote unquote, nice people, or like overtly nice people is rare. So getting recruited throughout the recruiting process, and everybody just coming with the glitz and glamour and just kind of fake niceness throughout the process, and being recruited by Penn State, that was just kind of like business approach. This is how we operate. It reminded me of how Pittsburgh operated. So the culture that I grew up in Pittsburgh, and seeing guys like the years prior to me, like A.Q. Shipley, Paul Lesney, I knew Morelli was coming up there. And so I knew that there was talent that was actually coming to Penn State. So, I think there's a pride and a cross reference of toughness that happens in Pittsburgh and State College, and the cultures that mirror one another.
Hang with us for a minute. We're going to step aside for the TV show to take a break. We're going to continue our interview. So if you want to see the entire conversation with Justin King, make sure to go to NittanyGameWeek.com for the entire interview, along with other web-exclusive content. Well, we still have some hardware to hand out. All 3 phases clicking in Champaign, Illinois. Why Scrap is honoring a member of the special teams. Coming up, we're heading into the final minutes of Nittany Game Week.
Scrap Metal is sponsored by the We Are In, voted #1 game day restaurant in Center County. Follow us on Facebook and visit thewearein.com or call for dinner or room reservations.
Time to hand out the hardware, and Tom, we go with the 3rd phase of the game, special teams.
Very important to come away with points after turnovers. Thanks to Alex Falcon, the Nittany Lions come away with at least 3 field goals in the game, 12 points overall. You need to have a reliable and accurate kicker when game gets a little tighter this season. Nice job by Alex Falcons to win the scrap medal.
And look, before we go, we want to let the Jersey Shore high school football family in Lycoming County, Pennsylvania, let them know that we're thinking of them, Jay.
Certainly a tragic loss. Max Engel, who's passed away this past Friday. And, you know, they went out, the community came together. They had a game against Shikellamy Monday night, and hats off to Shikellamy for moving the game. Our thoughts are with his family and Tom Gravish, their coach, who's just done an outstanding job, and hopefully gave them some good moments and memories.
You guys have been on a lot of those back roads, a lot of those high school games. It's a tight-knit community, high school football.
No doubt.
So, all right, thanks for that. In addition to a television show, we're bringing Nittany Lions together with our depth chart at NittanyGameWeek.com. We're connecting businesses that support the show with our viewers. Our goal is to build a team that keeps our hometowns strong. And make sure to check out NittanyGameWeek.com for web-exclusive content, including our new segment, Overtime. We go into more detail with some of the subjects we discuss on the show and answer some of your fan questions at NittanyGameWeek.com. For Tom and Jay, I'm Todd Sadowski. We finished with some Pride Picks. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.